Here we are with my colleague and good friend Michael Russo of The Athletic, embarking on a 15,000-day road trip early in the season through some of my favorite places, including Tampa Bay. As of right now, the Wild are a wagon officially. Haven't trailed in any game as of the start of this podcast. So, Mike, you wrote the other day about how this is just feels like a different feel to this group, the start of the season than the previous two. And we covered those last 2 years where the starts really killed them, basically, toward the end of the year. What feels different, the most different about this group watching them game to game?
Yeah, it was funny because I wrote that column and immediately, the skeptics, whether it was in the comment section of the article or Twitter, wrote me back and different feel. They've beaten Columbus twice, and and things, and St. Louis and things like that. But sometimes when you're around the team, you really do get a feel of not just what's going on the ice, but what's going on off the ice. And so I took a risk of writing that before they were going to playing the defending Stanley Cup champs, knowing that obviously huge tests coming up, but everything around this team right now is very different. And so far, again, going into tonight's game against Tampa, where Filip Gustavsson isn't going to be in net. So right away, it could have a different feel with two goalies in Fleury and Vasilevsky, who have so far not been great. Obviously Vasilevsky playing a lot more than Fleury so far this year. You just get the sense that they're better equipped to handle the adversity of the start of the season. And last year, the injuries just killed them very early. But because they're getting great goaltending right now, and because they just seem to be so much in tune defensively, you just have a feeling that this is so much more sustainable. So again, coming into Lightning game, they haven't had a deficit all year. They are 3-0-1 without Spurgeon. They're 2-0 without Hartman. They're 1-0 without Johansson. They're 1-0-1 without Eriksson Ek. And it just feels like right now there's different guys being able to be plugged into the lineup. And because Gustafsson has been great, and because Kaprizov and Zuccarello have been sensational, and Boldy's playing well, and Rossi's playing well, it just feels like right now, there's the ability with a lot of season left to be really, really good. And what I loved about last game is it just, I didn't really write about it in my gamer, but it just wasn't Kaprizov and Zuccarello last game. Like that third line with Trenin and Huzadinov and Foligno were excellent against Florida. And they got some high-end players even without Barkov, and those guys could do nothing against that line on the ice.
Well, it's interesting too. Like I think they talked a lot last year, Foligno and Hartman, about them, the resilience, a lot kind of be more fragile in-game situations and not being, Hartman called them, they were too easy to play against and stuff like that. And that's where I think I've noticed a lot on TV is kind of just watching them handling in-game adversity, not just the injuries, but just kind of the ebbs and flows. And of course, getting key saves helps you be a little bit tougher in those situations too. But
yeah, and as Gus said, he's made some incredible saves. Like he stole them that point in Winnipeg. Let's be honest. Not that Winnipeg, but even in that game where the Wild didn't have it and looked fatigued from playing the night before, Winnipeg didn't have a ton of chances, and they weren't very good either. And that's in large part because of the work ethic that the Wild are showing. So, again, a lot of season left. In a week we could look at this and sound foolish. But right now, as long as guys like Kaprizov and Gustafsson continue to play really well, you just feel like this team has the ability to really, in a weird division this year that so far has been a little upside down. With Nashville and Colorado not getting off to great starts, it looks like that they have definitely an ability to make the playoffs. And I think that you and I both agreed, as bad as last year was, Joe, that if they were healthy last year and if they got good goaltending, that they were 100% a playoff team. And right now they're getting incredible goaltending. Like I'm looking at Gus and thinking that he's playing better than we saw him 2 years ago. And I just think that if that continues, this team has the ability to really, make some hay in this division and conference.
Oh, and it's funny, after the last time you came on with us, the biggest question mark and concern going in was the 3 goalie rotation. Now it's a 1 goalie rotation, but like tonight against, a team like Tampa that's firing on all cylinders, you have concerns around the potential of Marc-Andre Fleury, going a week or two in between starts throughout the season if Gus keeps carrying it.
Well, and that's why he has to start tonight in John Hines' mind and Freddie Shabbat's mind, is because he is going to get that game in Pittsburgh in a couple of days. And you really, it's next Tuesday. And if he starts that game, which we know he is, it would be like 3 weeks without a start. And so this is almost like a tune-up game to not make him look like a fool in Pittsburgh. And so, look, you can't ride just one goalie. Luckily, their schedule hasn't been overly well. Like for me, I think it's really tempting to come back with Gus today, but I get it too. But you know, if all of a sudden they are trailing tonight and things go upside down, I think that obviously there's going to be a lot of people questioning this decision. The thing is that it's not like, you know, Wallstedt's playing really well, that this 3 goalie system, you know, that he should be on this team playing over Fleury. I mean, Gus is, you know, Wally has not been good right now in Iowa. He's 0-3. He's bleeding goals. Last night they tie the game up 2-2. He immediately gives up another goal. You know, he has got to get his, you know what, together down in Iowa, or they've just got to ride Gus right now. And this is sort of going to be a non-issue. But if Flower struggles, they're going to really need a Wallstedt to play really well here, because look, this is a business. It's about winning. It's nothing personal. And if Flower is not better than he was, at least, and not that I thought he was bad against Seattle, but I think if Gus starts that game, the Wild are probably unbeaten right now. You know, he's just got to at 39 years old really get into some traction here and winning them games, and that's the most important part of having a backup.
And think with Wallstedt too, and like I haven't talked to him yet about this, but I wonder mentally how much it took from him when he thought he'd be on the team or in the 3 goalie rotation. They sent him down in for good reason because of injuries, but you kind of have to land back in AHL before you can kind of, you know, get back onto your game. And I wonder if it's taken a little bit of that. You know, they told him to be in Minnesota, get a place in Minnesota and be there, and now he's there for who knows how long. But
no doubt he's a human being, and I'm sure he's dealing with some of that, but he's also a professional. And right now he's put himself in a position where I don't think you could put him back on the team. Like, he's got to get his act together down there and stop pucks and be better, because this was supposed to be a really good Iowa team and they don't even have a victory yet. And so, you know, and so that's another issue that we could figure out too. I mean, that they are going to have to figure out what's going on with Iowa right now. But, you know, to your point, Joe, you and I have been writing all summer that it was nonsensical to have a 3 goalie rotation. And thankfully right now, I bet Bill Guerin is thinking his lucky stars that 31 other GMs didn't bite on him trading Philip Gustafson, or they'd be in real trouble right now. You know, Gus has been excellent, and I don't think you should trade him right now. And you know, now they got to get Wally's game in order here. But for a team that has still some major cap pain and would need Wallstedt's cap space to be able to afford other players in case of short-term injuries, because IR, you don't gain any cap space. It just never seemed like this was going to work. And we saw early on in the season that, you know, they had to send Wallstedt down just to have Damon Hunt play in St. Louis because they couldn't afford him. So I do think that, you know, I don't exactly know if this was the most well thought out plan by the Wild. You know, just based on their cap space, that if you were going to have one of your 23 guys be a 3rd goalie, you just knew at some point, if they had small little injuries like Spurgeon not being long enough to put on LTI or IR, or Johansson being a minor injury, that eventually to afford other guys, you're going to have to only send either Wallstedt or Ogren down, because they're the only 2 guys that really don't require waivers that you would even consider sending down.
For sure. And real quick, just because who knows when you'll get back to Tampa? Do you have like a specific cigar bourbon already picked out for your next stop here today to the Diamond Crown Cigar Lounge?
No, I you know, Joe was covering the Lightning for the Athletic in the Eastern Conference Final when I said to him that, hey, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go watch a game from the Cigar Lounge and do a feature on it. And left Joe and Pierre LeBrun all alone and Peter Ba. And I just, you know, somebody had to do it. And Joe, for some reason, all these years covering the Lightning, never thought of watching a game from in there. So I'm like, I'll do it. So it's been pretty good. I'm staring right now at a incredible bay of water with yachts on it, where there used to be Stanley Cup parades and things like that. Every time I look out this window, I'm just amazed that Joe left this place for Minnesota. I'd take you on a tour of my 1,500 square foot suite here, but I don't want to get winded.
That wasn't part of your recruiting pitch to bring me to Minnesota.
No,
that was not part of the.
So when the Star Tribune recruited me to come to Minnesota in 2005, they flew me first class, put me up in a suite at the Marquette Hotel, and it was the best weather ever. I accept the job. I fly back to take my drug test because I had to take it like right away for some reason. They flew me middle seat, the smallest room maybe I've ever had in my life, and it rained the entire time I was in Minnesota. And this to me feels like sort of what I did to you. So.
Yeah, I'll be seeing a certain show in a few hours, so I know you'll be.
That's true.
Wishing you
better send me. You better send me live videos of every song. I want like live streaming. So not just Trampled, by the way. I don't know if everybody knows
Brothers.
The Avett Brothers fan I am. Like I've gotten to hang out with those guys because they have a great relationship with Trampled, and Avett used to open for Trampled, and now it's kind of cool that they're sort of flipping it around here. In sort of a co-headline situation, but there's nothing like a Trampled by Turtles home show, and for them to be at XL Energy Center, it's got to be an incredible thrill for them. So I expect some streams to be sent to my way tonight.
One of the more interesting questions I think for the mailbag you did, the first part of it, was about Marco Rossi, and obviously he started the season really well, and it begs the question of, I know it's early, but like, does him playing well and continue to play well this season give the Wild any more motivation to try to have contract talks with his agent Ian Pulver, which he hasn't, at least up to this date, done so? Do you think?
Oh, did I lose you guys or no?
Yeah.
Okay. It would for me. But I don't know how much has changed here. Because like if it were me and I drafted and developed a player like this, I wouldn't want to give him up at this age. The Wild, I've covered this league for 20 years. They don't draft centers and develop them into quality players besides Koivu and Eriksson Ek. It just has never happened. And now you got this guy that looks to be like a really quality player. And his price is only going up the longer you wait. But I don't know how much has changed because, again, one big reason why I think that they haven't committed to him is because they know Yurov's coming. And I think there is sort of an edict next summer to go out and get some free agents. And if you're going out and pursuing, let's just say it's Brock Boeser, that's fine. He's a right wing. I get that doesn't affect Rossi. But let's just say they go after a center like a Brock Nelson or somebody like that. He's got to play somewhere. And there's also only so much power play time around too. So again, if they are just assuming that Yurov is going to be a future number 1 or 2 center here, and that Eriksson Ek is going to be a number 1 or 2 center here, if they don't look at Rossi as being a third line guy here, and I don't think that's fair to Rossi, I just don't know if it changes that much. And the longer they wait, the more expensive it gets. So I still have my doubts on whether or not they have interest in re-signing him, but it's up to him now to continue to put them in a position. Like the one thing I would say is that Yurov is still a figment of our imagination. They haven't got him signed yet. We don't know how it's going to translate to the NHL. They obviously watch him a lot more than me. But he's also a guy that you could play at the wing too. And I just think when you have a guy like this, especially like if I were the Wild, I'd go right now and at least try to get a bridge deal done, like a Cole Perfetti bridge deal. And then what it does is it buys you a couple more years at a quality price. So then at least you get Yurov here and you see what you have in him. And then if you have a real stud, then you have now a quality Rossi that you could trade at a really reasonable price. So I just think that if you can get him done on some sort of reasonable contract, even if it's a 4 or 5 year deal in the $4 or $5 million range, that is a tradable contract if he continues to ascend. And so I just don't know right now, why it makes sense to move him. And so I'm not saying that they are. I haven't talked to Bill Guerin about this, but I just still think that the biggest reason why we know they haven't committed to him is because of all these other factors of going out and spending money on free agents and Yurov. And still, like if it were me, I'd rather have a 23-year-old Rossi rather than going out and spending $6 or $7 million on a 30-year-old or a 31-year-old center. That's just me. I think the world of Rossi. I think he's done everything this organization has asked of him, and I think that should deserve some payback from them. And I just think that he's gotten better from a strength standpoint. He's gotten better from a skating standpoint, and he's got, despite his size, courage like very few undersized players have in this league. I mean, if you look at NHL Edge during last year's 21 goal season and so far this year, where does he get his shots from? Where does he get his goals from? They're always from high danger net front areas. He's an extremely smart player, and I just think that I think it behooves them to make that call now to Ian Pulver and try to get him done.
Yeah,
this seems like a perfect analysis to run December 15th when Joe comes back.
we'll see what happens in the next month and a half.
Diluted thoughts and put them into something sensible, Joe.
I will take care of the mailbag on December 15th, so I'll take care of that one.
This interview is brought to you by our friends at Waggle Golf. Waggle Golf believes what you wear on the course should reflect your individuality, who you are, where you're from, your hobbies, interests, and passions. All the stuff that makes you, well, you. That's why every design is inspired by the desire to create a piece of apparel that strikes a chord when you see it, that makes you say, wow, that was made for me. Because in a lot of ways, it was. Ready to get your Waggle on? Go to getyourwaggleon.com, throw in promo code SP10 at checkout to take 10% off your entire order.
Speaking of the trade market and stuff, I know one of the questions too was regarding a Jared Spurgeon and like how long he might be out, and when do you start to wonder if there's going to be go on the market to try to find somebody to replace him if you think he's gone. Now, obviously, you reported I think today that he's going to be skating in Philadelphia, maybe joining the team there, and so but we don't know if this will be an ongoing thing throughout the course of the year, right? Like whether this is a nagging thing or could be longer.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's coming to Pennsylvania to practice on Friday and then practice again on Monday. I don't think he'll play either game. I think it's just continuing his rehab with the team. Clearly, for him to go, whatever he was dealing with is gone. So then this is a non-issue. There is nothing the Wild can do. They can't go out right now, and trade for Rasmus Anderson or anybody like that. The only way that you could go out and replace a Jared Spurgeon is by putting him on LTIR, and clearly they're not near that point. So if this becomes a long-term issue, they're going to need a right shot defenseman at some point. If he is back in the lineup, this is a totally non-issue. And again, if you're a Wild fan that keeps on saying, well, just dump Spurgeon, get rid of Spurgeon, trade Spurgeon. He's a 34-year-old coming off back and hip season-ending surgeries that 2 games into his season was dealing with some sort of discomfort again. That makes $7.5 million a year with 3 more years left on his deal. Teams are not lining up to trade for that. So the only way that you could replace Jared Spurgeon is an LTIR situation, and this is not a thing they could do right now. So it's a non-issue.
And a lot of fans were kind of perplexed when the word from the Wild, when this injury happened, or I guess re-aggravation, was that it was part of the healing process. That was kind of the word being put out. Is this something that's actually like, were they planning for these kind of setbacks, or was this pretty unexpected?
Well, I mean, I don't know if planning is the right word. I think that anytime you're coming off 2 major surgeries, you're going to have issues. I mean, I think the Wild fans, I got what Bill Guerin was saying. And I think that anybody that really thinks about it understands that if you have injury, no matter your age, if you have season-ending injuries, you're not just going to come back and miraculously be better. There's going to be times where you feel soreness or stiffness or whatever. So I haven't talked to Spurgeon. I don't know when we'll talk to him, because the Wild do have a rule that if you're not cleared to return, you can't talk to that player. So right now, other than maybe shooting the breeze, I don't think I'll have a full interview with Spurgeon until next week. I don't think that we're allowed. I know that we're not talking to him tomorrow. And again, unless he is cleared to return in Pittsburgh, which I don't anticipate, we're probably not interviewing him in Pittsburgh. So I don't want to put words in his mouth. The only thing I know is that he just woke up in Winnipeg. He wasn't feeling great, some sort of stiffness or soreness, and they didn't want to take any chances, and they sent him back to Minnesota to get seen. For him to get examined by doctors and for them to give him the green light to just let things calm down and then start skating again, and now for him to take the next step to join the team, I think clearly this isn't a re-aggravation. I think he was dealing with exactly what Bill Guerin said.
Fair. All right, 2 quick ones then. Oh, go ahead.
Last one for me. Wrap it up. But our good friend Elliot Friedman wrote his 32 thoughts. Kirill Kaprizov lead to that section regarding playing MVP caliber level. Or maybe this could be a Hart season for him, or Hart candidate season. I know I had him 3rd on my ballot a couple of years back. I know you said it's not been a Kirill Kaprizov show. Zuccarello has more goals than him. Other guys have been playing, but I wonder if this might be the year that he gets kind of that attention in the Hart Trophy conversation.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are some incredible players right now that are playing in the first 3 weeks of the season, Hart Trophy caliber efforts. 3 of them happen to be Russian. One's Artemy Panarin. One's the guy that you made chug a beer once in a post-game presser, and Nikita Kucherov, and the other's Kirill Kaprizov. And anybody that's around Joe Smith knows that he wants to make you chug beers. So I remember that same Colorado Tampa Bay series. We're in Colorado, and Joe, we both leave the arena at 12:30 in the morning, and we have 6 a.m. flights back to Tampa. And Joe texts me, he's like, "Hey, you want to get a beer?" I'm like, "No, man, we got to leave for the airport in like 3 hours." And I'm like, "No." Anyway, but yeah, I mean, if the Wild make the playoffs, I think he better be on people's Hart Trophy ballot, because these same people that vote are the ones that picked the Wild to finish 7th in the Central, which was completely stupid. I mean, like, that's something that I just can't believe that anybody looks at the Wild and looked at this roster and thought that if they were healthy with Kirill Kaprizov on the lineup, that they were not going to at least be a bubble team to make the playoffs. I mean, he is that good. And as long as he is healthy, he will not let them be a team that's going to be on par with fucking Chicago. I mean, come on. I mean, it's just insane. So that alone, I don't normally get pissed at prognostications, but I think people are just bored with the Wild that predicted them that low. And again, it's early, and I may look stupid for saying that, but as long as Kirill is playing well, this team is a playoff caliber team. And Kirill, even though he only has 2 goals this season, I think he's scored on the ice almost every single game. He's had 4 assists already this season that are just extraordinary assists. I mean, that play to Hartman in St. Louis, the play to Rossi where he steals the puck from Nick Leddy, the play the other night where Zuccarello didn't even move a muscle and just let Kaprizov do all the work and pulled Bobrovsky out of his net. I always find it fascinating too, guys. Like, I didn't write this, but like after the game, Bobrovsky's pulled, and who's the first person that I see in a suit outside the Wild locker room is Sergei Bobrovsky waiting for Kirill Kaprizov, and there Kirill comes out with jersey sticks, and they're trading stuff. It's just amazing how many friends that Kirill has in this league, and not just his countrymen. But here is a bad night for Sergei Bobrovsky. Kirill makes him look like a fool on that one play, and then what does he do? He goes and they're hugging it up after the game. I just think that Kirill is playing outstanding right now. 76 games left in the season, a long way to go.
Yeah, what struck me one of my first stories in Minnesota was on Kaprizov, and talked to a bunch of superstars in the league about what they see, like McKinnon and Crosby and Kucherov and all that stuff. And it's just amazing how much respect that they have for him in all these different areas of his game. So I think even though he might not be on that, MVP perspective as far as from the voting people the last couple of years, I think the peers in the league see what a unique talent this guy is, and why is
Yeah. And Joe, when you come back, I think you're going to be just blown away about how much he's even changed from last year. Like, he is an absolute pleasure to cover right now. He'll start up conversations to shoot the breeze. The other night, we didn't ask for him in Columbus, but I went up to him just to see how well he knew Tarasov, because they're from the same hometown. And he told me this unbelievable story about Tarasov and his dad and all this stuff. In training camp, I wrote it today as the lead to the mailbag, just him talking about what it's like, what a training camp is like in the KHL compared to the NHL. And his English is just extraordinary right now. So, the other night in Florida, cracking jokes about, Zuccarello and him changing roles. So this guy is comfortable in his own skin right now, and is a true star and leader on this team.
We love that. And we appreciate your time, Mike. We'll let you run and go enjoy Tampa as much as you can before Joe starts sending you the Trampled by Turtles video.
No, I will. I'm going to take all sorts of videos and show him what he left for. Like, I made some joke to somebody the other day. I can't believe Joe Smith left for this. And somebody said, "Well, you left South Florida for this." Tampa is not South Florida. Tampa is like this whole area, what Jeff Vinnick and everybody has built. Like, I used to cover the Panthers in the mid 90s and come down here. You couldn't even stay at a hotel down there. You had to stay at the airport Marriott. There was nowhere to eat. There was nowhere to stay. Now, I was talking to John Merrill this morning about just what this whole area has become. It's crazy. And South Florida is one of the worst places. I was so happy to leave there. But man, if the Athletic said to me right now, "Do you want to cover the Tampa Bay Lightning?" I'd be leaving Joe in Minnesota in a second. No, I'm just kidding.
The minute my leave is over, I'm requesting a transfer off the base.
Oh my God, this yacht in front of me. I just want to live on it.
Yeah.
So,
well, thanks again, Mike. Enjoy the rest of the trip. Safe travels, and we'll catch up when you get back.
All right. See you guys.